I just turned 29
Yeah.
and my son was 18 months old. My wife was 6 months pregnant with our daughter. And I was thinking about, I'm going to be a father of two. I'm going to be 30 next year. What thing should I do before I am in my 30s, have two
Yeah.
children, and should be responsible?
Uh-huh.
And, you have those kind of thoughts running through your head about what you could potentially do. And then all of a sudden, over the course of a few days, my immune system effectively failed
Okay.
and started attacking some of the tissues in my own body.
Hmm.
And I went from being, physically active. I went from being very independent, running a tech business, to, in the course of a few days, being in hospital bed, not being able to wash myself, not being
Yeah.
able to feed myself properly, and being completely reliant on others to do the
Hmm.
very basic, life things that I had taken for granted.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
at first, you have the kind of the emotions that you have to process, the frustration, the anger,
Hmm.
the loss,
Yeah.
and trying to, work out what I was going to become, really, because I'd
Hmm.
lost my physicality, I'd lost my independence, and that's not something I'd faced at any point in my life before. So
Yeah.
there was a bit of, why me, why now? I've always looked after myself, my
Yeah.
I was going to step back from the business to spend more time with my children, and all of a sudden everything was taken out of my hands. So it was difficult, but I spent a month in hospital being tested, being, having fluid drained off, being, poked and prodded to try and work out exactly why it happened. And
Hmm.
I think within that period, after I kind of got through those initial emotions, I actually realized that I'd never really been grateful for things, and now I've lost them. It's given me a very kind of holistic viewpoint on all the many things I should be grateful for.
Hmm.
And that played a significant role in getting back on my feet and being able to walk again, because I couldn't
Yeah.
actually stand up and weight bear, due to the amount of damage that it had caused. So for me, yeah, that kind of initial moment was all the human things that you feel when
Hmm.
the world seems uncertain. You've lost the very basic things you've taken for granted. But that actually then gave me a platform in my recovery to
Yeah.
really look outside of myself and see what was important, and to be grateful for things that I'd never even thought about before.
I think it's so interesting that you say, you know, it made you reflect and realize that you hadn't really been grateful beforehand. Because I think particularly for people who acquire their disabilities, it's it's completely life changing. But you're right, you do take things for granted, like being able to walk, being able just to pop to your local shop without having to think about it. Whereas, when you become and you acquire your disability, your whole life and the way that you have to think completely changes, because it's not just, oh, I'll get up and go to the shop. It's, can I get to the shop? Can I get up to go to the shop? Will I be able to walk around the shop and be okay? Do I need support? What's the accessibility like? Can I get there by myself? And if I can't, is the route accessible? There are so many other factors that you have to take into consideration. And I love that actually acquiring your disability made you more grateful, because I think as a human race, we all need to be a bit more grateful anyway. Like, we lack gratitude. We are all so obsessed with instant gratification that it's going to be the downfall at some point. But to be able to have that moment where you almost sit and reflect is kind of a wonderful thing, even though it's brought about by really unfortunate circumstances. And if you can take that away from anything, isn't that the most magical thing that you can do?
Yeah, and I kind of reflect now, Brooke, in that, that moment, it didn't happen to me, it happened for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Being stuck in a hospital bed, not being able to move, and removing and stripping back, some of your kind of acquired masculinity around,
Mm-hmm.
it being about physicality and independence and the individualistic aspects that our society presents. All of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, you are completely reliant on your network and those who
Yeah.
ultimately care for you. And that is powerful because it showcases just how, precious that network of people around you is, and how human beings are continually connected. And the reason, I suppose, why I say it happened for me is because it did make me stop. and
Yeah.
reflect and put me into a situation where I had to be able to really kind of peel back some of those layers of the onion and who I
Yeah.
was and the impact that I wanted to make. And I think the biggest thing for me from that was I actually, after those 4 weeks in hospital, came to a place of acceptance. Acceptance that this has happened, acceptance that I'm not 100% sure what the future holds. But that acceptance allowed me to really focus on my recovery and do everything I could to try and get back on my feet and to try and manage my energy. And the biggest thing in that was my daughter was born when I was in walking rehab, and I was driven towards being able to take her first steps with her.
Yeah.
And that really fueled my recovery, because we'll do more for other people than we'll do for ourselves. And through the setbacks, I always had a really kind of positive outside of myself goal to be not only walking with my daughter, but after that to be running around with my children. And, you know, there's nothing quite more powerful than looking about how things that have a significant impact on you can actually be, you know, the catalyst to think a lot more about others, but also about the impact that you have in the world as well, and the legacy that you create with your little actions day by day.